Good afternoon. I'm Mark Zivin, chair of J Street Chicago, and I want to welcome everyone to the annual J Street Chicago Lunch. I'm proud to announce that this is our most successful lunch ever. We've exceeded all our goals. There are over 350 people here today in support of the state of Israel and in support of two states for two peoples. We have a lengthy program, and before we get into the heart of the program, I just want to thank the people who've led the effort to make this happen, the Chicago J Street staff and the Chicago J Street Executive Committee. I won't introduce the Executive Committee. You can find their names in your programs. And if you'd like to learn more or get involved, please feel free to talk to me or any of them individually or contact us through the J Street office. But I would like to ask the staff to stand so that we can give them their due for all the hours of hard work they've put in, not to mention the stress they're having to deal with, including by certain people that shall remain unnamed. Jill Katz, J Street Midwest Finance Director. Tibna Axel, who's the Midwest Field Organizer. Neil Zolt, Midwest Finance Assistant in the back. And Elisa Fetter, Midwest Campus Organizer. And of course, all the people that have volunteered to help out today. We really appreciate it. So I want to thank you for everything. And now, a man who you all know is a political mover and shaker. He's a board member, national board member of J Street PAC. And he's been there with J Street from the start. And he's my soulmate. He's my soulmate in rotator cuff surgery. Our event chair and host of the lunch, Bill Singer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you to all of the members of the Chicago Committee that's led by Mark for making this a very successful event. It's our most successful by far, and I think it's a combined effort of the Luncheon Committee and the Chicago Committee of J Street that made this all happen so well. So thank you to all of you for doing all the hard work to make this not just a success with over 400 people, but raising over $130,000 for J Street today. That eclipses by a third the amount made at our last event. So we've really done very well. It's a tribute not only to J Street, but a great tribute to our honoree, Susan Manilow. I have the honor of chairing this event, and it's really not just an honor, but a great pleasure because it gives me the opportunity to speak about two things that I care very much about. Joanne and I have no better friend in the entire world than Susan Manilow, and we value that friendship, as does, I suppose, that goes for a lot of people in this room who value the friendship of Susan Manilow. And J Street, as an organization, has been really a marvel to watch. I'm going to introduce its executive director in a minute, but it really has taken off both in Chicago and nationally in just such a short time. And again, thank you for supporting J Street. Before I speak about Susan and about J Street, however, I want to introduce some people who are with us today, some elected officials. Those who aren't going to speak, there are several who are, but those who aren't, and make sure that they get recognized. First of all, I know that Senator Durbin will cede the turf to one of his fellow Senate colleagues, but I'm delighted that she's here. Many of you supported her when she ran in the neighboring state of Wisconsin. But let me introduce U.S. Senator Tammy Baldwin. Where is she? She was here. We have 4 members of the state of Illinois, 4 members of the delegation from the state of Illinois that I want to introduce today. First of all, Congressman Bill Enyart from downstate. Congressman. I just see a 5th, so we have 5. Congressman Danny Davis. Don't sit, Danny. I'm about to ready to introduce you. Congressman Bill Foster. I know many of you have supported Bill. Where is Bill? He's here somewhere. There he is. Thank you. Congresswoman Robin Kelly. Thank you, Robin. A really staunch supporter of J Street from day one, Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky from the North. And finally, my congressman, and who's been a great supporter, Congressman Mike Quigley. Mike, where are you? He's here somewhere. There are a number of members of the state legislature who are with us today. I'm going to read off all their names and ask them to stand, and please hold your applause. We'll do it all at once. State Representative Kelly Cassidy, State Representative Scott Drury, State Representative Robin Gable, State Representative Christian Mitchell, State Senator Julie Morrison, State Representative Marcus Evans, State Senator Heather Steens, who's just come off a big victory. Thank you for your efforts. State Senator Patricia Van Pelt, State Senator Mike Frere-Rickus, and am I missing anybody from the legislature? Who? Daniel Biss, State Senator Daniel Biss. I'm sorry, Dan. Thank you. All of those people, let's have a round of applause for our state legislators who are here. And finally, a couple of more. Alderman Will Burns, who has been here every one of these luncheons. Alderman Burns. And I want to introduce another great city official, the Deputy Mayor of the city, Steve Koch. Where is Steve? Maybe Ron wouldn't let him out of the office. He's right here. He's right there, but he's not there. Steve was supposed to be here. Ron wouldn't let him out. Mayor Nancy Rotering, Councilwoman from Highland Park, Kim Stone. And I think I've gotten them all. If I miss anybody, I do apologize. Let me say 2 words before I introduce the next speaker about Susan and a few words about J Street. Everyone in this room has, I think, an affiliation in some way with what Susan has done for so many organizations in the city of Chicago. Whether it's Mount Sinai Hospital, Human Rights Watch, the arts community, adopting a school that most of you don't even know about, a school in Uptown that she helps out a lot. Susan Manilow is one of those rare people in Chicago that we should add to the list of Chicago's finest. I know that both Ram and the mayor and Senator Durbin will speak to you about that, but really there are very few people who cross so many boundaries for so many good things in Chicago. She has been with J Street from the beginning, opening her house, she and Lou's house, to J Street events from the very beginning, and has supported this cause like so many others in her life. Susan does every single thing that she does it well. And we are so delighted that she agreed to be our honoree. We are so delighted to recognize her. She deserves recognition from all of you, I know, for many other things that she does in Chicago. But Susan, we are thrilled that you have done this today, and it's a tribute to you. You have your family with you, and it's a tribute to all the people who have shown up today because of you. And I really want to stress, it's really because of you. So thank you, Susan. Finally, before I make my next introduction, I do want to speak just 2 words about J Street. J Street was formed to provide a voice that was silent. People would say, as you all know, that the American Jewish community needs a voice to say what it really believes in terms of support for a 2-state solution with security for the state of Israel. And yet there was not that organization. One person, and I will introduce him later, Jeremy Ben-Ami, had the vision to create an organization that would speak for all of us and indeed for the majority of American Jews about how we felt about a 2-state solution and the peace process. In 5 years, J Street has made a tremendous impact. In the last election cycle, we supported 71 candidates for the House of Representatives. 71 were willing to take our endorsement, unheard of, and 70 of those 71 won their seats in Congress. Twelve members of the United States Senate and 2 who are running for the Senate in this cycle who are not yet there, but we hope will be there, have also agreed to be J Street endorsees. That's a tremendous, they're all Democrats. That's a tremendous move, and I think we'll see before the end of this cycle, the 2014 election, I think we'll see that number approach 15, maybe even 16 or 17 Democratic senators, all endorsed by J Street. In 5 years, we have reached the point where every member of the United States Senate is open to our discussions about the state of Israel, open to supporting the resolutions that we proffer for the Senate to adopt. There's a tremendous amount of recognition that J Street does, in fact, speak for the majority of American Jews on these issues. And that is a testimony to the work that all of you have done, many of you in this room who support J Street in the Chicago chapter, nationally, as well as the members of Congress who we have supported. So thank you all. Thank you, J Street, for being there. I said 2 years ago when I spoke at this luncheon, thank you to Jeremy for finding a home for the voice that I know has been there and been too silent for too long. J Street deserves all of the support you've given it today. With that, let me make my first introduction. He gives new meaning to the words eat and run, but the mayor of Chicago literally ate his whole lunch while waiting for his introduction. We are honored today that Mayor Emanuel is with us. We are honored that he serves as mayor. I will say that as a partisan and a supporter of Ram from the day he started to run for office as his first campaign treasurer. He has served with distinction in the Congress. He has served with great distinction as White House Chief of Staff. And now he has really, and I will use this word advisedly because I know it's true, he has sacrificed to become mayor of the city of Chicago and do what is almost inhuman, run this city. It is a tremendous task. He's doing it well. He deserves all of our support, and we're honored that he's with us today to speak both for Susan and J Street. Mayor? I didn't say anything bad.
Thank you, Bill. I want to speak quickly. First of all, I want to welcome Ambassador Gallon here, former ambassador, particularly to the point because he recently, if you haven't seen it, I would recommend, there's a great documentary that's up for an Oscar called The Gatekeepers. And it's a tremendous documentary which he's in it. It's an interview with 7 of the former heads of the Shin Bet and national security of the State of Israel. I say that also because there was recently a documentary here in the States was released. It was about all the living chiefs of staffs called The Gatekeepers. Your movie is up for an Oscar. The one I'm in is not, and I would just like to say to my parents, my brother's not as good as agent as they thought he was. It is a tremendous movie, and it's a tribute to your service on behalf of the State of Israel, the Jewish people, and it's an honor that you're here, and I want to thank you for being here. Second, I do want to be here for J Street, and I wanted to be here as I was in past lunches. I do think that, as they always say in life, timing's everything. There's an irony to be had that we have this J Street dinner, or lunch rather, at the very same time that John Kerry over in Europe is meeting with the Iranians and having a conversation, which I think we've gathered the 300 people, at least in the Jewish community, who agree with that conversation right here in this room. But I do think I wanted to pay tribute because I think the J Street, as Bill noted, has actually supported and given voice to a lot of people in the Jewish community who actually do support a two-state solution so the Jewish people can live peacefully and secure and fulfill the dreams that have had from the beginnings of 1948 to have a nation among nations. And that is what exactly we're trying to do with J Street, and I applaud them for their effort in the political process here in the United States to give voice to that actual desire. As somebody who spent a lot of time in the State of Israel, as recently as on my 14th trip with my daughter for her bat mitzvah in June, to see that aspiration and making sure that we have a political system that is supportive of that aspiration and is true to its roots of being a nation among nations in that effort. But my real reason, which I'm sure is all for all of us while we support J Street, is to pay tribute to somebody who has shaped the culture and the quality of life in the city of Chicago. Now, Lou, we usually spend a lot of lunches honoring you. I want to be here because I wanted to make sure we're all here to honor Susan Manilow, who has really changed the great city of Chicago, because you are a great woman. Thank you. And I say this because in 1989, when I came out of college, I literally got hand-me-down suits from Lou and Susan. And at every level in my stage in my life, whether it was running for Congress, whether it was moving down to Little Rock, coming back to help Mayor Daley in 1989, Lou and Susan have been there at every step of the way. And there's not a person in this room that they have not touched in some way, and there's not a part of our city they have not touched. And as Bill mentioned, Mount Sinai Hospital, the school in Uptown, the cultural scene, the quality of life, Susan and Lou have not only touched the lives in this room, they have touched thousands of lives outside this room. And what makes this city so unique among cities, which I call the most American of American cities, is because you have citizens like Susan, who, yes, people will know Susan from Human Rights Watch around the world. We know her as Susan Manilow, who has literally given health care to underserved communities, schools to children that are looking for a brighter future, arts and culture, not just downtown, but in our neighborhoods and our community. And they have been tireless in their passion for the things they care about, but Susan has been tireless in her passion for the actual institutions and the people whose lives she's touched. I cannot think of anybody who is more worthy of not just the recognition J Street, but worthy of the recognition of what it means to be a citizen of a city and live in the spirit of being a Jewish citizen, to give something back to the people, the neighborhood, the community, and your friends. And the truth is, this lunch doesn't really do justice to everything that you have done, Susan, to make this city what it is, our neighborhood what it is, our friendships and our sense of who we are as a people. And this lunch is a small recognition of why we all love you. Thank you.
I know the mayor has to run, but we thank you so much for being here today. This was a great treat for all of us. And now I'd like to introduce the senior senator from the state of Illinois, also one of my oldest and dearest friends, someone that we share a common heritage of starting in the political life together. We both have gray hair. I see he's pointing to it. We both have the same political patrimony in Paul Douglas. We come from the same place. And no one serves with greater distinction in the United States Senate than Dick Durbin. No one makes a greater impact day in and day out than Senator Durbin, the majority whip, meaning the number 2 position, the person who's responsible for making the trains run on time in the United States Senate for the Democratic caucus. No one is more responsible than I know of for persuading a certain gentleman named President Barack Obama to run for president than Dick Durbin. Maybe David will have some opposite view of that, but no one I know, at least in elected office, was as essential to that effort to persuade then Senator Barack Obama to run for president than Dick Durbin, and he remains as close a friend as the president has in the United States Senate. So without any further ado, let me introduce my friend and our great Senator, Dick Durbin.
Thank you, Bill. Thanks, everybody. I want to thank Mayor Emanuel. I know he had to scoot off. David Axelrod, my friend, my fellow members of the Illinois congressional delegation from all over the state, including Bill Inyard from down in St. Clair County, the county of my birth, 300 miles from here. Bill made a special effort to be here. Thank you, Bill. Danny K. Davis and Robin Kelly and Bill Foster and Jan Schakowsky and Mike Quigley and all of you, thank you. And state elected officials as well. It is great to be here. The year was 1990. Some of you may remember it. The Chicago Bulls had a young player named Michael Jordan. He was in a playoff game against the Cleveland Cavaliers. And in that playoff game, Michael Jordan scored 69 points. It was an amazing record, 69 points. And when the game was over, they went up to the center of the Bulls, Stacey King, and they said to Stacey King, what was it like to be out there on the floor playing in a game when Michael Jordan scored 69 points? And Stacey King said, as long as I live, I will never forget the night that Michael Jordan and I scored 70 points. It's a true story. I checked the record. He had 2 foul shots and missed one. And I feel the same today, that J Street would bring me together with Susan Manilow to be on the same program. This is a special person, and I think you all know it. Susan has done so many things with Lou by her side and her family behind her, but what she's done has made such a difference, and many things have been mentioned already. I know my friends are here from Mount Sinai. Mount Sinai is such an amazing story. You know, this is a room of people who care and give. I know because I've asked so many of you to give in the past. But you care and give. You care and give for so many important causes. Mount Sinai, this great hospital that is just invaluable, wouldn't be there without the caring and giving of people like Susan Manilow. It is a great tribute to her and to all who support causes like that. She did the same for the Environmental Defense Fund. And then for one that hasn't been mentioned, the Human Rights Watch. The reason I know this is that a few years ago, I was asked to chair the Human Rights Subcommittee of Senate Judiciary. It didn't get a big headline in the newspapers in Chicago, but it deserved a phone call from Susan Manilow, who said, great news, I got a lot of things I want you to look into. And she gave me a long list of human rights causes, defending and helping some of the poorest and most abject people in the world on issues of human rights. It's her cause. It's one of the things she deeply believes in, and I've been happy to work with her to make that happen. I can tell you that as you look at her life, you realize it's not only about healing Chicago and Illinois, it's about healing the world. I also want to say a word about J Street, and one of the reasons we're all here today. No cause is dearer to Susan, Lou, and all of us than finally achieving a just and secure, lasting, and fair peace for Israelis and Palestinians. That's why Susan became a pioneering member of J Street. In the 5 years since it started, she has become a valued voice in the community, in Congress, and even in the White House. J Street has broadened and strengthened America's understanding that Israel must be strong, must survive. Israel must have the right to defend itself against any threat. And a two-state solution is essential to Israel's survival as a home for the Jewish people and as a vibrant democracy. There is no other long-term solution. 2 months ago, Shimon Peres said of President Obama, quote, "In all matters concerning Israel, I trust him." And we can trust this president to stand steadfastly with Israel as it pursues the hard, even heartbreaking work of peace. It was 20 years ago when Yitzhak Rabin, the brave soldier turned statesman, was criticized for negotiating the Oslo Accord, and he said, "You negotiate with your enemies, not with your friends." The following year, Yitzhak Rabin, Shimon Peres, and their old nemesis, Yasser Arafat, were all sharing the Nobel Peace Prize. The next year, an assassin's bullet struck Rabin down. But his spirit lives on. This week marked the 18th anniversary of that terrible day. And as they have every year for the last 18 years, Israelis gathered in the square across from Tel Aviv City Hall. It's known as Rabin Square, to show their support for the peace efforts of Rabin. Last year, 20,000 people gathered for that commemoration. This year, 30,000 gathered. Among the speakers was President Shimon Peres, Rabin's partner in the search for peace. This is what he said about those who say that peace is not possible. He said, "They have not succeeded, and they will not succeed, to snatch away our only possession, a possession that is priceless, that leads us through the storm. That dear possession is called hope. It is called peace." Those were the words of Shimon Peres. As they do every day, the crowd in Rabin Square then sang the words that Rabin sung just before he died. The lyrics go, "Don't say a day will come, bring that day." For helping to bring a new day of hope and justice in Chicago, in far-flung places like the Congo, throughout the world, and especially to the Israeli and Palestinian people, Susan Manilow is one of my sheroes. I join you in acknowledging her tremendous work for peace and justice. Thank you.
Just to show you how things are all connected in this world, the senator has had two finance chairmen in his campaigns for the United States Senate. Who are they? Susan Manilow and Bill Singer. And at the signing of the Oslo Accords, who did I stand next to to watch the ceremony? But Susan and Lou Manilow. We waited for hours outside the White House gate, if you'll remember that, Susan. These things all have a sense of coming around. I now want to introduce someone who I look forward to his remarks. We all look forward to his remarks. But if I mention that Dick Durbin was as essential as anyone in persuading Barack Obama to run for president, no one is more responsible for him being president than David Axelrod. I think everybody in this room acknowledges that David has been the person who has been closest to the president in both of his two campaigns, has really helped elect any number of other great people, including Rahm Emanuel and Mayor Daley and other people around the country. But his great contribution is to help us, help the city of Chicago, to make sure that we had a president like Barack Obama. He shaved his mustache, so I want to make sure everyone recognizes him. But we're delighted. I want to tell you just one thing. When I extended the invitation to David to join us and speak to us, he said he couldn't make it. He had an event in Florida. Then I saw him a few nights later, and he said, you know, I'm going to change my schedule around, and I'll make sure I get back in time to do it. So, David, we are thrilled that you're willing to be here. I know it's for the cause and for Susan, but thank you very much, and we look forward to hearing from you. David Axelrod.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with all of you. It's great to be with my friend the mayor who scooted out. I think it should be pointed out that he's so cheap he's still wearing your suits, Lou. I think that may have been one of them today. I want to acknowledge my great friend Dick Durbin, who often appears as an island of reason in a sea of madness in Washington, and we are so blessed to have him as our senator, and I can speak for the president when I say that he's blessed to have Dick Durbin as a very great friend and a wise counselor. One of the things I will always remember for the rest of my life is the friendship that the day after Barack Obama became the nominee of the Democratic Party in 2004, Dick Durbin embraced him and mentored him. And here was this young guy who was kind of shot out of a cannon, was getting all this national attention, and oftentimes the dynamic among senators is such that the established senator is not that thrilled to see a young up-and-comer shot out of a cannon and getting all the attention. And rather than reacting in that way, Dick became really the best friend that Barack could have hoped for. And that says a lot about his character and his commitments. And so it's a pleasure to be with him today. I want to acknowledge all the members of Congress who are here and the elected officials and the few civilians who were able to squeeze in the room as well. Mo Udall once said that when he was a young congressman at a congressional hearing and he was the last one up in questioning, he said, well, everything that needs to be said has been said, but not everybody has had a chance to say it. But I'm happy to add my voice to the others who are here. I did change my schedule to come back because I wanted to pay tribute to a great friend and a great Chicagoan and a great human being, Susan Manilow, and I wanted to pay my respects to a cause about which I feel so deeply and the President feels so deeply. Bill said we should add Susan to the rolls of Chicago's finest. I think Susan was added to those roles long ago. When you're blessed with a lot of advantages and a lot of resources, there's a temptation to turn inward. But then there are some special people, and there are some in this room, and Susan reflects that as well as any, who understand that you're measured by what you do for the larger community, for the world around you, for people who need help. And her work at Mount Sinai on human rights, on bringing arts to people broadly, all of this work is worthy of the tribute that she is getting today and much more. So I am really, really thrilled to be among those to offer my thanks to Susan for everything that she's done and undoubtedly everything she'll continue to do in the future. By the way, when you mentioned that that you and Susan were Dick's two finance chairs, now I know why everybody in this room knows that Dick asks frequently for help, but I think we should add to Susan's list of accomplishments. Sorry, there's 5 bottles of water up here. Apparently my remarks were so lengthy that they thought I would need all of these. Susan also, and certainly Lou as well, have been responsible in helping so many fine public officials get elected at every level, including Dick Durbin and including a couple of presidents. So we're very grateful for that as well, because it's through our elected officials that we can impact on policies that are important to the equities we care about. So thank you for that as well. But I also wanted to be here because I think this is a really propitious moment for us to gather. It seems like it's a very consequential time in the history of Israel and the Middle East. I know how committed the President is to finding that path to a two-state solution, to finding a path that will allow Israel to continue in perpetuity as a democratic Jewish state and in security and in peace. And Secretary Kerry has been very, very aggressive in pushing on that door. And we know that we've made some progress recently as a result of that. And we've seen concessions, we've seen prisoner releases that were a major concession on the part of Israel. We've seen the Palestinians defer their efforts at the United Nations around the statehood issue. We see talks moving forward. It's easy to see the obstacles. The obstacles are clear, and they've been clear right along, but there are rays of hope here, and we need to continue to press for that path. And that's why I wanted to be here today with you as well, because I think J Street is giving voice to that commitment that so many American Jews share to see this through and to get to that point where we have a two-state solution. And it is so important that we raise our voices now, and that the people who are involved in these efforts understand that there's a tremendous amount of support within our community and beyond our community for those efforts. So I finally just want to thank you all for supporting J Street and its efforts. I think that, as Bill said, those efforts are gaining momentum here. I think that's going to have an impact on policies here, and will give added momentum to this process. So I thank you, Susan. Thank you, Bill, for inviting me. And I thank you all very much for supporting J Street and for being here for Susan Manilow.
Thank you, David, and I really do appreciate your changing your schedule to be with us today. Now it's my really great pleasure to introduce someone who maybe not all of you know, like you know Susan or Senator Durbin or David Axelrod or Rahm Emanuel. But there is a person who is responsible for all of us being in this room today, and that's Jeremy Ben-Ami, who had the vision, the courage, and the strength to pull this organization named J Street. Why is it named J Street? Does anybody want to know the answer to that? Because in the city of Washington, D.C., there's an I and there's a K, and there's no J. And so it was filling the void was the idea, filling the void in the Jewish community. J Street fills the void. I don't know if that was your idea to name it that, Jeremy, but that was a good idea. But far more important than the name is what it has done. I just want to give you one anecdote that I think David in particular will appreciate. Right after the last election, it was clear that the issue of two-state solution and negotiations between the Israelis and the Palestinians had been put on the back burner until the election was over. Understandably, everybody understood that message. But it was also clear that the president was going to be engaging on this issue. He had made that commitment shortly after his election. In fact, he said, my first trip abroad right afterwards will be to the Middle East and particularly to Israel. Jeremy was able to talk to friends in the White House, and for the first time prior to the president's trip, Jeremy arranged a meeting for about 15 of us, several of us in this room. Betty Lou was there, I think Judd was there, I was there. A couple of other people in this room I suspect were there as well. Met with the senior people in the White House who were going to be on that trip with the president and who were preparing his remarks in the case of one of the attendees, who I won't name because probably doesn't want that to happen. And we met for a couple of hours beforehand to prepare for the meeting in Washington, and we scripted out the things that we hoped would be the messages that the president would take with him to Israel. After his speech in Israel to the young people where he spoke at the university, we were stunned. The email traffic was so clear that every single point we had urged upon the president was in that speech. Not one was left out. He said he hit all of the high points. I'm not saying it was because we made all those points, but the accord or the acknowledgement that we were on the same page was terribly important to the future of this organization, to the American Jewish community having its voice heard. And all of that, really, 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 all of that is due to one person who's made this happen. And I'm so pleased he's here today, Jeremy Ben-Ami, our chairman.
So thank you so much, Bill. I'm sure that our interlocutors at the White House for those off-the-record meetings are happy that you've shared the anecdote. It's really just so tremendous to stand up here and look out at this room. And Susan and Lou, I think back to some of the very first discussions about what we could do here in Chicago and the folks that we are pulling together, and I think we would have fit in a phone booth. And it is in keeping with what you've been hearing about Susan and Lou that they were immediately willing to open up their home and to say, let's bring people together, let's get this idea a hearing here in Chicago. And many of you in this room were at one or more of the events that you hosted and have really paved the way here in Chicago for an event like this. So I just want to acknowledge the tremendous success of this event. I want to add my thanks to the words of Mark Zivin, our chair, and of Bill Singer, our host, to Jill Katz, and to the entire J Street staff here in Chicago who put this together. And you've all heard from them numerous times over the last few weeks, but the amount of effort and energy and work that went into this deserves one more thank you on behalf of the whole crowd. In the interest of time, I won't reiterate the thanks to all the others who are in the room, from the J Street leadership to the elected officials and the extraordinary Chicago leaders who are here. What I will say briefly is this could not be a more significant moment for us to be gathering to discuss and consider what is American interest and what is American policy towards the Middle East. The Secretary of State in the last 24 hours was in meetings with the Prime Minister of the State of Israel and the President of the Palestinian Authority to try to push forward the peace process towards the two-state solution that we have dedicated J Street to achieving. He left those discussions in order to fly to Geneva, where as we sit and eat, as the mayor mentioned, the Secretary of State is sitting with the Foreign Minister of Iran and the EU Foreign Secretary Catherine Ashton to try to hash out an interim first step arrangement with the Iranians over the nuclear weapons program. This is an unbelievably important time. Today is important, the next few weeks are important, and I would argue 2014 is a real moment of decision. It's a moment of decision for the state of Israel. It's at a fork in the road in terms of the fundamental choice as to whether to continue down a path of continued settlement, of expansion onto the West Bank, on a path that leads towards one state between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean, in which Jews in the long run will be a minority, or a path of peace, a path of risk, difficult sacrifice, difficult compromise, but one that ensures Israel's Jewish and its democratic character through a long-term peace, not just with the Palestinian people, but a peace that then is recognized by the entirety of the Arab world through the Arab Peace Initiative. And this moment of choice is going to be reached in the coming weeks and months. The Secretary of State has, in his personal dedication and perseverance, made that clear. It's a moment of choice as well for American leaders and American foreign policy leadership, the diplomats, the Secretary of State, and the President ultimately. The question before them is how hard to push. Should, in fact, the United States continue to exert the necessary pressure on both parties in order to get them to yes? Should it continue to push through even as it gets no's along the way, and to say, no, this is a fundamental American national security interest, and we will continue to plug away and push ahead until we get to a deal. And that moment of choice, too, is going to be coming for the United States and its diplomats and its foreign policy community. Now, there's a third moment of choice in the coming year, and that's for the American Jewish community. And the question for us is, are we going to stand by as a status quo in Israel continues to slip towards a situation in which the state that we love, the state that is the state of our people, the national home of the Jewish people, incurs ever greater international isolation, moves ever further towards a status of being a pariah state because of the continuation of the occupation of the West Bank and a lack of peace between Israelis and Palestinians. The two-state solution is a vital interest not just to Israel, not just to the United States. It's a vital interest of the Jewish people and who we are as a people, and we, as the American Jewish community, must decide to make our voice heard. And that's the fundamental decision for us in the coming year, in 2014, as this peace process really comes to a head. And J Street is going to play a critical role in that. We have built J Street over these last 5 years to provide a political home for the pro-Israel, pro-peace movement. That is, as Bill said, a majority of the Jewish community in this country who recognizes the importance of a two-state solution, not just because it is in a national security interest, but because it comports with the values of who we are as a people. And that's my segue into my introduction of our honoree today. You have heard already the incredible contributions that Susan Manilow has made, not just to you here in Chicago, not just to our nation through her political and nonprofit and advocacy work, but to the entirety of the global community through her work with Human Rights Watch, the Environmental Defense Fund, and so many other causes. The award that we are giving to Susan today is called Tzedek v'Shalom, Justice and Peace. There are no two higher values in the Jewish religion than to pursue justice and to seek peace. These are the calling of who we are as a people. They are what we teach our children, are the essence of what it means to be Jewish. And we've said that J Street is a way to give voice to those values on this, the most difficult of all issues that face us as a Jewish people. And it is no surprise to all of you who know Susan and who know Lou that they didn't hesitate one blink of an eye to say that they would step to the forefront of this struggle as well, and to provide a way for us to build this home that results in over 350 of you here today, over 50 chapters of J Street on college campuses around the country, nearly 50 chapters in cities around the country, 180,000 supporters, a vibrant and growing movement that gives voice to us, that gives us a home that says that the pro-Israel, pro-peace part of this community is going to be an active political voice in the conversation when it comes to Israel and foreign policy. And there is no one who is more responsible for the growth of that seed into the flower that you see today than our honoree today, Susan Manilow. It is with great honor that I invite Susan to the stage and ask her to accept our Tzedek v'Shalom Award. Back down.
I can say that here, can't I? I think I'd like to invite a few of my friends up now to tell the truth. Come on, family, you know, it's... Thank you, Jeremy. Bill, where are you, Bill? Bill, thank you, Bill. I thank you, I know, but you have gotten me into more things than I... But truly, Bill and Joanne and their family are our family. and we love them dearly, and thank you for everything you've done. Ambassador, welcome, and Consul General, welcome. Thank you for being here. Senator Durbin, I don't know how to say to you what I mean and love, and you have been a great friend, for which I am grateful, but you have been an extraordinary public servant, devoting your time, energy, and your life to all of us, and thank you. To Mayor Emanuel, he was a very skinny kid who did used to come over for hot meals occasionally, and when he was appointed Chief of Staff, I sent him a quick email. This was before Twitter or anything. I mean, that's how fast that's changed. I sent him an email saying, Mazel tov, I'm very proud of you. You'll do a great job. He immediately wrote back within 20 seconds, thank you so much. I think I need some more suits. He did. Okay, I am really honored, really very much honored by this, and honored to follow Bill, of course, and certainly honored to follow the extraordinary women that J Street honored last year, Bernice Weisbord and Marge Benton, and of course our now sadly missed wonderful Ruth Rothstein. Ruth was my mentor and my teacher in all things healthcare. Ruth, as you know, never minced a word, and I can hear her now saying, Susan, get up there, say what you think. No mincing words. So, okay, Ruth. She was an extraordinary person. The State of Israel has been a part of my life since its creation. My father, and I'm going to say our father here because I'm happy my brother and sister-in-law are with me. Our father was deeply and passionately involved. We have boxes and boxes of photographs of our parents with Golda Meir, Abba Eban, Moshe Dayan, Ben Gurion, and others. He sold countless Israel bonds and planted more trees than I'm sure there was room for. There are bottles of water up here. When one of my sons was bar mitzvahed, and I shudder to say that was over 40 years ago, he took us to Israel. We did the usual things. We stayed at a kibbutz. We floated in the Dead Sea. We climbed Masada. We walked the amazing ancient streets and wept at the beauty of Jerusalem stone turning rose in the sunset. But we also went to Gaza, an unusual detour from the usual itinerary. My father, as I said, was a devoted and passionate believer in the State of Israel. He was also a man of peace. He understood well and believed in the words of Theodor Herzl, who said that as a persecuted minority in all the countries of the world for centuries, we, the Jews, did not aspire to return to the land we have so longed for in order to suppress or dominate another people. He believed in the Israeli Declaration of Independence that states clearly its commitment to peace, justice, and a guarantee of equality regardless of race, gender, or religion. I've returned to Israel many times. When Lou was on the board of the National Democratic Institute, we monitored the first Palestinian election. We were stationed in Ramallah. Sadly, we watched the hopes and prayers of so many crushed by inept and corrupt leadership. I've been back several times with my beloved friends, the women with whom I have studied Torah for 10 years, and with whom I hope to continue studying Torah till we reach some ancient biblical age. We're on our way. It's become clearer over the years, however, that a sense of despair was creeping into many conversations, though never too loud or too public. It was certainly felt that it was somehow inappropriate to criticize the politics of Israel, though Israelis certainly did. There was more concern building not only about the future of Israel, but the future of Jews. More and more young Jews were growing more and more antagonistic to the State of Israel. They spoke openly about wanting to believe in the principles the founders of the country talked of, but didn't think they still believed. So many young people, blessedly far removed from the Holocaust, were questioning why they should support Israel. So it was with great relief and hope that we welcomed Jeremy and his then new J Street into our home. It gave many of us a place and a collective voice. It brought young people and college kids back into the conversation. It allowed for caring and honest talk. I say all this, of course, mindful that we live here and have no need for gas masks and safe rooms. I'm also mindful of the many fits and starts, the hopeful talks, the broken words. But as the world gets smaller, communication faster, when their dangerous neighborhood gets more dangerous and harder to read, there is more of an urgency. I'm going to quote Shimon Peres here as well, but when he said after Oslo that history was like a horse that gallops past your window, the act of a true statesman is to jump on the horse and take the reins. When powerful voices like Carmi Guillon, who you will hear, speak these truths, when the people most affected and with the most to lose speak these truths, then we certainly must. Managed conflict is not peace. Occupation is not peace. Peace is difficult. Democracy is fragile. Neither can be sustained in the absence of justice and in the absence of human rights. It's a true act of friendship, I believe, to hold those one loves to the standards they themselves say they believe in, that we say we hold ourselves to, that we as Jews have held on to for centuries. We all know this to be true. So let me thank you again for this wonderful honor, and thank you most of all for supporting your ongoing support and growing support of J Street. Thanks.
And now it is my pleasure to welcome to the stage, on behalf of the State of Israel, the Consul General of Israel to the Midwest, Ro'i Gilad, who is responsible not only for all of you here in Chicago, but the entire 11-state Midwest region. He is a 23-year veteran of the Israeli Foreign Ministry. He served across the world, from the UK to Jordan and Kenya. He's a former staff sergeant in the IDF, recipient of degrees from University of Haifa and Tel Aviv University and Hebrew University as well. We are glad to have him with us here today as a representative of the Israeli government and the statement that that makes about our ability to have an open and a vibrant conversation about the very, very important issues that we care so deeply about. Consul General Gilad.
Thank you very much, Jeremy, for the warm things. I understand I have to be careful with this water. Senator Durbin, Carmi, Susan, what shall I say? Everything was said already. This was such a privilege to sit next to you. Friends, I would like to congratulate you for this important gathering. I attended your annual meeting also last year. And indeed, you are doing very well in terms of quantity and quality of participation. In the slot of 3 minutes that were allocated to me, and I do intend to speak only 3 minutes, I, as the official representative of Israel to the Midwest, would like to make 3 short comments. First, your wish for a two-nation-state solution is our wish. Not because it serves Palestinian interests, not because it serves Palestinian interests, but because it serves Israeli interests. This is the only way we can guarantee our future as a state that is both democratic and Jewish. Talking about a Jewish state, I propose the adoption of the term two-nation-state solution so that we can be certain that we and the Palestinians are on the same page. As we speak here, Israel and the Palestinian Authority are engaged already in 3 months of talks that were set by the American broker to last 9 months. This is a very bumpy road, and the chances to reach a final status agreement at the end of the road are not great. However, the Israeli government proved its seriousness by taking a very unpopular decision of releasing more than 100 prisoners with blood on their hands, of which 52 were released already. A strong majority of the Israeli public believe this is wrong, especially bearing in mind that the record of returning to terrorism among Palestinians who were released from Israeli jail in the past. Yet, the Israeli government took this difficult decision in the hope that if this sign of blood of good faith results in a successful outcome, the interest of Israel will be served. Second, we cannot ignore the very complicated geopolitical situation in the Middle East post the Arab Spring. This new geopolitical equation has created for Israel many risks, but only few opportunities. Focusing only on the Palestinian conflict while ignoring the two bigger conflicts that are casting a heavy shadow on the Middle East, the Shia-Sunni conflict and the radical liberal conflict that have resulted in the dangerous deterioration in the stability of Syria and Egypt, one can draw a wrong picture. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict needs indeed to be resolved for the benefit of the two people. However, let us not see Israel as the automatic suspect if an agreement is not reached, since this conflict has two sides. After all, Israel is a democratic state with a solid majority for the two-nation-state solution, provided this solution will guarantee the future of Israel as a secure and a Jewish state. Third, last but not least, the Iranian challenge. I read very carefully your letter, Jeremy, that you sent on the 6th of November. And as the representative of my government to the Midwest, I must respectfully disagree. Secretary of Defense Chuck Hagel said very clearly lately that, quote, Iran is responding to the constant pressure from Israel, knowing that Israel believes them to be an existential threat. I think all of this combined probably brought the Iranians to where we are today. End of quote. My friends, this is a time to unite Jewish support against what Israel considers to be the most serious threat to our future on such a critical time. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Gilad. It is now my privilege to close our program by inviting our featured speaker to share a few moments of his thoughts with you about the challenges that we laid out throughout the program today, the challenge of how to secure Israel's future, the best approaches to a diplomatic track with the Palestinians, perhaps a word or two about Iran. Our guest today is Ambassador Carmi Gilon, who is one of the most prominent figures in Israeli security, education, diplomatic, and business life. Ambassador Gilon served in the Shin Bet service, the Israeli security service, for over 20 years before becoming the director of the agency during the Oslo peace process. Many of you are familiar with him and his role as a result of the recent documentary, The Gatekeepers, the Oscar-nominated Best Documentary of the Year, which featured all 6 former living heads of the Shin Bet and their thoughts about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. His varied posts, besides working in the Shin Bet, have included being Vice President of External Relations at Hebrew University, Mayor of the city of Mevaseret Zion, Ambassador of Israel to Denmark, and CEO of the Perez Center for Peace. It is an impressive resume. Ambassador Gilon is an impressive representative of the state of Israel, of the people of Israel. I think you will find his remarks today of great substance, very timely, and of great interest. It is my pleasure to welcome to the stage Ambassador Carmi Gilon.
Thank you, Jeremy. It's so nice to see so many people attend the J Street event because I remember you were an underground only a few years ago. But I want first to say thank you very much to Susan. You really inspired me in your words. As an Israeli, it was so important to get inspiration from Chicago and to bring it back to Israel. And thank you for letting me sitting next to your mishpuche. And now I know that you mentioned your late father, that his great-grandson are serving in the Israeli army, 3 of them actually. So that's another honor that I got today. And third thing, I'm a human being, so I wish for compliments. And I would like to thank Rami Manuel for his beautiful words about gatekeepers. And I really feel like a movie star, but that's not the issue. I got another compliment, and actually it was yesterday in Milwaukee. I was there on behalf of J Street. And then a lady who becomes active nowadays for J Street in Milwaukee, she told me that for years, as you, Susan, she believed that the solution for the conflict between Israel and the Palestinians is based on agreement and not war. But she was afraid to speak out. She kept her mouth shut because she was taught and was raised to say that whatever the Israeli government says, it must be the truth. It must be justice. And never criticize the government of Israel. And suddenly, when she went to see the movie Gatekeepers and found that 6 different former heads of Israeli Shin Bet get to the same conclusion separately. And I would like to mention to you that one of them was and still was as minister, and now he's member in the Likud party. Second one, he is now minister in the Israeli government, and he represents Yesh Atid, which is a center, even center-right party. Third one was the leader of the Labour Party in Israel. And the rest 3, well, I'm known as leftists, but the other 2 are really center, even center-right in their opinions. Each of us was interviewed separately. Each of us get to the same conclusion, in spite of the fact that we share different political opinions. So, going back to that lady, Sally, her name, in Milwaukee, who said, now I got the legitimacy to speak out here in the United States of America and to support the peace process, in spite of the fact that sometimes my opinions are different than the opinions of the current Israeli government. This is a new era for me. And I just want to remind you, and the Consul General already mentioned it, that in the last 20 years, since the Oslo process, 6 different prime ministers of the states of Israel, 3 of them were born and raised as right-wing, 2 of them were Likud members, and the other 3 were Labour Party members. All the 6 adopted the policy of 2 states. So what J Street says, it's a consensus in the state of Israel. There is nothing wrong with that. Don't let the extremists from the right to pretend to be or to success to be the speakers on behalf of the state of Israel. They are not. But I'm here to speak about security. And let's won't be old-fashioned anymore. When we speak about security, it's not only a matter of the number of tanks and cannon and rockets that the Palestinians can use or we can use. It's not that matter anymore. You know, the Chief of Staff of Israel a month ago said that every house in Israel is under the threat of rocket, of missiles attack, because of the Hezbollah and the Hamas and other things. So let's say that the PLO will have another 2000 rockets. Big deal. Well, it's not a joke. I'm very serious. Because the security matter, the face of war is different than it was 30 or 40 years ago. Territory lost its importance in a situation of war. It's not needed because the battlefield is totally different. But more important than that, when we speak about security of the State of Israel, we speak about something much, much larger. When 40 years ago, Israel was attacked by Egypt and by the Syrians, and we had the Yom Kippur War, the 73 war, we were stuck because we had no weapon. We were stuck because we had no even uniform. And as an officer, I ended that war with a tag of US Army on my shirt. And I used the tanks that I used were all colored by US Army colors, not IDF. So take it or leave it. When it comes to the independence of Israel, it's totally dependent on the support of the United States of America. And we need to say, okay, maybe we don't like it, we like to be machos, but we are small-size macho. There is a bigger macho. And this, we need to take lessons from the history. Our relationship with America, it's the #1 strategic interest of Israel. And the fact that America responds, and I mean all the different administration you had here, and of course the Congress and the Senate, support Israel in the last 66 years, this is the #1 interest of the State of Israel, actually the existence of Israel. Second point, Israel is a small country. We are only 8 million. And I know many of us, many of the world admires our success in science, in technology, the number of Nobel Prize laureates, and so on. This can't be done in a small country. The Israeli market, the Israeli population is too small for the sum of the whole country can make. I mean, there is no market for the Israeli high-tech in Israel. It's too small. For our biotech, for our scientists. Hebrew University of Jerusalem is #1 in Israel, but we don't care so much about that as we care what is our number among the Ivy League in the United States. This is our ambitious, this is our target. And what does it mean? It means that almost 1 billion euros invested by the European Union in the Israeli science and industries is critical for the future of our scientific and high-tech industries. We need the European Union not only as a market, but also as investors. We need the contacts with the Asian countries and with the African countries, because otherwise there'll be no market for the booming economy of Israel. And third point is what happened to us, the Israelis, after 66 years. I got a surprise for you. We begin to think as normal people. Our well-being becomes to be the main agenda in Israel. We went to election, in the last election, no Palestinians were there. Only mid-class, taxes, employment, housing. We are normal, and that's good. And normal people wants to know that the basic condition to have normal life is peace, is to live in peace with your neighbors. And to end, I just would like to say a few words about what's going on nowadays in the Middle East when John Kerry schlepped from one city to another. You know that John Kerry spoke to the Israelis 2 days ago via the main channel, Channel 2, over the head of the Prime Minister, and sent us a very clear message. If you want to move on with this process, your future is in danger. Very clear. And the Israelis are very clever people. They understand it. Now, in practical for Israel, the situation now in the Middle East is a window of opportunities. The situation in Egypt, what's going on with Iran. Iran is not a threat only for the state of Israel. It's mainly a threat to Saudi Arabia and the Gulf countries. It's mainly a threat to Europe and also, of course, to Israel. And because of only one reason, we don't take the challenge and use these windows of opportunity to establish normal relations, not peace, normal relations with at least the moderate Arab countries, is because there is one X factor that we need to solve, and that's the conflict with the Palestinians. If we won't take this opportunity and the conflict with the Palestinians and forget about peace, there'll be no peace. I hope it will be a good arrangement as the one Begin and Sadat wrote to us in 1982 when they signed the Camp David Agreement. We have an excellent agreement that works very well with Egypt, in spite of the fact there is no peace, not even ambassador. But the first time Israel felt that it need to have a fence along that border was not against terrorism or Egyptian army. It was against smugglers and the people from Sudan and Eritrea who are looking for jobs in Israel. So why won't we take a lesson from the history and understand that such an arrangement, good security arrangement, which is possible with the Palestinians, as it was possible with Egypt, should be made as soon as possible, and then the future for Israel will be something that we should be very proud of. So thank you very much, and continue with your very important job. You are really, it's necessary for the sake of the State of Israel. Thank you.